am indeed Chelsea Mauldin, and I live in New York City, where I run a not-for-profit organization just launched called the Public Policy Lab. And our mission is to help all Americans build better lives by improving the design and delivery of public services. That's something of a mouthful. So what we really like to say is that we make better services for the people. Before I talk to you a little bit about our project that we're working on right now, I want to say some words about why I think it's really crucial to improve the design and delivery of public services. I mean, there are obviously fascinating service design challenges when you think about the spaces and programs through which public services are brought to the people. This is the downtown Brooklyn Department of Motor Vehicles, in case any of you out there are having any kind of flashbacks. And when you think about a space like this, you know, as a designer, you can have a lot of fun with it. But beyond the design challenge of how do you improve something like that, I think there are really social and moral arguments for the importance of improving a public service. The first of those arguments is what I call the argument from compassion. It's just not okay if a disabled veteran has to sleep on the streets of Los Angeles. We as a society are rich enough and successful enough that we can provide housing to this man and to other people who have fundamental needs. We can also provide opportunities for families to help themselves. My grandfather, apparently there are a lot of grandfathers today, my grandfather dropped out of the 8th grade in Edna, Texas to wash dishes and pick cotton. And I stand here in front of you with a master's degree. So there was a line that went from those two places, and that line was created by public services, effective delivery of public services. This is what I like to imagine that famous $4,000 Pentagon toilet looking like. But, you know, frankly, we shouldn't have that. We should know that our taxpayer dollars are being used in ways that are respectful of the fact that that money was taken from us. So we want to know that our tax money is going to things that actually work well and work effectively. That brings me to what I call the argument from the social compact. I think that when public services are delivered poorly, they undermine our civic institutions. They make us feel like it's not actually true that we're all in this together, that we can all help each other, that what, you know, lifts one boat lifts all. So what does the public sector need? The public sector needs an innovation process. And the question is, can you actually do innovation in a public sector context given all of the challenges? Or is it just this Sisyphean task where you're going to like roll the rock up the hill and it's going to come rolling right back down? I actually think that there are lots of ways in which public agencies are great places to do innovation. First and foremost, because the staff in public agencies are really mission-driven. These are some of the words that senior managers at Medicare used to describe to me how they felt Medicare should feel for Medicare beneficiaries. So they're dead on. They know what that public service should be like. So why doesn't it feel that way? You know, what keeps them from being able to deliver the service they want? Keeps them from delivering a service that feels like this. Again, these are their words to describe what it feels like to be a Medicare beneficiary accessing that system. Well, I think it's that they operate under intense constraints. Policy constraints, budget constraints, legal constraints, organizational constraints. They operate within silos that make it very difficult to even talk to their own colleagues. They operate within what I think of as a culture of no. This is the door to the downtown Brooklyn Social Security office, and everything about that door says no. Don't eat here, don't bring your phone here, don't bring your personhood here, frankly, because we don't want you as a person. You're just a thing a service is being delivered to you. Further, we have this weird American problem, which is that we don't actually believe that government maybe should even do things for citizens. So that, I know, for the non-Americans may seem odd, but we truly are not sure that we think that the government should try to engage in the lives of the populace. So what does the government need? Something more like a pie testing, a low-cost, low-risk way to try out options. You know, if the pie's not that great, it's not that big of a deal. But you get to try out lots of pieces of pie. They need a design process, essentially, a way that you can have multiple iterations, a way that you can do prototyping and testing in a way which is pretty safe. That brings me to our project, Public and Collaborative. This is a partnership with the New York City Department of Housing Preservation and Development, one of New York City's 2 affordable housing agencies, a research lab at Parsons, the New School for Design, and my organization. And I should say we are generously funded by the Rockefeller Foundation, who gave us a Cultural Innovation Fund Award. This is the process that we're using. We started with the scoping and discovery process with agency leadership and agency staff, really to try to figure out what is the problem that we're trying to solve. Then we went into a user-based design process, a user-based research process, leading into a design process to actually improve the service delivery. And then finally, we're in the process of proving value. This is one of my amazing fellows, Leanna Dragamon, doing on-the-street interviews with residents in the South Bronx, talking to them about their experiences applying for affordable housing. We've been doing a lot of outreach to local residents, to community-based organizations who deliver housing services in the South Bronx to say, what does it feel like if you're a New Yorker trying to get a subsidized apartment? We also are working closely with frontline service providers. So these ladies here all work for housing developers, for-profit and not-for-profit entities that are actually the ones who build new apartment buildings. So we're talking to them about what happens when you are interfacing with a member of the public who's applied for one of the apartments in your building. Right now, we're in a documentation process. It's not actually quite as bad as this Post-it note collage makes it look, but we're talking about how can the agency itself begin to do pilot proposals to improve the delivery of services. So we're not only making a series of recommendations to them, we're also talking to them about what our process was. So we have a section in our documentation that says insights from co-creation. How does co-creating this process change this process? Next year, the agency will be doing a series of 5 pilots to try to improve people's access to and understanding of affordable housing in New York City. And we'll be kind of hanging around, lurking as design helpers, but also doing a pretty intensive evaluation and monitoring process. Because the big question, of course, is can we prove that design actually helps, that an ethnographic process actually helps? Because that's the way to get more designers and ethnographers embedded in public agencies, is being able to show that there's actually a return on value. And that's me. Thank you very much.